think Good Friday is good, but not for the reason that most people say. Most of the time, people think of Good Friday as good because it refers to Jesus' crucifixion for the sins of all of humanity, a self-sacrifice that secured our divine forgiveness, which is good, and I think it's true, but it's not what I find most compelling about this day. But before we get into that, hi. My name's Corey, and if we haven't had a chance to meet yet, I'm an ordained minister and the pastor of RedeemerOnline.Church, the channel you're watching right now. And it's my mission to help you understand and practice the Christian faith, especially if you don't go to church right now. And if that's something you're interested in, you haven't done so yet, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, the like button, and the notification bell, because that'll let you know whenever we put out new videos. And it's gonna let me know that you're here, and I'm glad that you're here. So, what is the most compelling part about Good Friday then? Well, it has to do with mud. You see, there are two ways you can find help when you find yourself in a problem. The first one is the one we're most acquainted with. You can Google it, or you can type it in on YouTube. No matter how many times I've gone to change a headlight or brake light in one of my vehicles, I always YouTube it first. That way I can refresh my memory and the knowledge, the steps, first remove the bolts and then pull outward from the car, twist, then turn, boom, you're done. The internet's kind of like a friend who's standing off to the side, giving you instructions on how to solve your problem. But, and you know this, some problems in life can't be solved by just applying the information you heard from a friend or the internet. There's no simple Huberman Lab protocol for heartbreak, right? Or for handling betrayal, or for processing abuse or walking through grief. I mean, if you've ever found yourself in the mud and muck of life, you know that it's not all that helpful to have someone off to the side saying, well, what you need to do is just loosen up right there and just pull out this way, or you ought to twist and turn and boom, you're done. In fact, one of the things you need the least when you're in life's worst scenarios is a bunch of instructions from outsiders. I mean, that's not really what love looks like. Love gets down in the muck, in the mud with you. And this is what I find so compelling about the event we remember on Good Friday. It was the day God got down into the mud with us. I mean, Christmas is when people throw around Emmanuel, which means God with us, but on Good Friday, God made good on that with us commitment. Some basic theology. Christians believe that God put on flesh and walked among us in the person of Jesus, that Jesus was in some mysterious way God in a body. Now, why do we believe that? Well, it's because John, one of Jesus' closest disciples, after spending 3.5 years walking and talking daily with Jesus, John describes him that way. In the opening to his account of Jesus' life, John says, "In the beginning was the Word." Now, the word here is the Greek word logos, and it's where we get our word logic. It was the first century philosopher's way of talking about that unknown force or equation, the thing that is beyond and behind everything. And John says the Word was with God and the Word was God. The Word became flesh and made his dwelling among us. This is John's introduction of Jesus as divine. He equates Jesus with the logic of the universe, with God. Now, the word for made his dwelling is the Greek word eskenosin. It means to have one's tent, to set up camp. The Old Testament image was to tabernacle. It called to mind when the Israelites were wandering in the desert after slavery in Egypt, and they would set up this tent version of a temple for God, a temporary portable structure that could be set up and taken down and carried to whatever spot they went to next. And so the story goes, God dwelled among them in that tent. Now, I don't know if you've ever been camping, but I spent my entire childhood and early adult years camping every summer. And there's something primal about it. Sleeping in a tent, cooking over an open flame, sitting around a campfire at night. The only thing between you and nature at night, a thin tent canvas. That's the thing about camping. You can't avoid the nature part, the bugs part, the dirt part, the hunger part because cooking didn't go good part, the part that's in the woods, the dirt part. Did I mention the dirt part? Always dirty. You see, when you decide to go camping, you're basically deciding to get a little muddy for the duration of your time out there. When Jesus decided to eskenosin, when he decided to make his tent among us, he was deciding to get down into the mud and muck of life with us. And Jesus went all in on the joys and all in on the sorrow. Absolutely every human suffering and indignity that you can experience, Jesus gets all of that. You ever been betrayed by one of your closest friends? You've been wrongly apprehended or accused? You've been deserted by the people you should be able to trust the most? Had your family turn your back on you? You ever been interrogated under the assumption you were doing something wrong even though you weren't? You ever experienced excruciating anxiety and depression? He gets all of that. You've been physically abused and beaten? He gets that too. You've been shamed sexually? Jesus was stripped naked and flogged and hung out exposed for the entire city of Jerusalem to see, as well as everybody traveling in and out for the holiday. You've been mocked? He gets that. You've been abandoned, lost a loved one, experienced excruciating pain, and even the people who should have understood the most did nothing to help. I mean, the list could go on and on and on. Every indignity, every evil that's been done to a person was done to him. Jesus endured it. And he did it so that we could know that God is with us. God's not looking down from heaven while you struggle in the mud, screaming instructions for you to do better or get it together. Just pull that way or turn it this way. If you just follow my instructions, you'd be freed. No, that wasn't God's way. Instead, God put on flesh. He set up his tent next to yours. He got down in the mud with you so that you would know that no matter what you're going through, he's been there and he's in there with you. That's why Good Friday is good. It's the day we remember that God loved us so much that he put on flesh and dwelt among us, taking on absolutely every bit of evil that this life could throw at him so that you would know that you're not alone. That's what I find most compelling about Good Friday. It's also what I find most compelling about Christianity. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.